Yo, Beth, that shit crazy.
Welcome, everybody, to All Even Live exclusive. I am Barry Grant Jr., host of the All Even podcast. To my left is Mike Guido, host of Guido's Gridiron Blitz. Down at the bottom is Matt, the great 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐬. And who we have on the show today is Washington Wizards assistant coach, Alex McLean. Welcome to the show, my man. How you doing, coach?
Oh, man, thank you. Thank you for having me, man. Happy to be here. Doing
Definitely.
well. How you guys doing?
Now, we're doing good, man. We're doing good.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's healthy. Everybody's, I think half vaxxed right now. I think Mike is over there. He got his stuff going. So,
yeah.
But everybody's good, man. How's your family doing?
Man, everybody's doing well, staying healthy. Same here. Just trying to finish up the tail end of the
Yes, sir.
season on a high note.
Oh,
yeah.
Definitely, man. Definitely. So, let's start with your backstory, your origin story, because you're a New York guy like myself, like us. And, just kind of tell us how you grew up. Like, what was your love? What was your first passion in regards to, whether it's music, whether it's sports, like, what kind of got you started?
Well, growing up in New York, you know what it's like, man. It's
Yes,
rough
sir.
And tough, and you got to have some grit to you.
Yes, sir.
I always had a love for basketball. That was probably number one. Loved it. I didn't play it, but I loved it. But early on, I had an aptitude for music and a gift for music, and I excelled very early in my life. And never pursued basketball as a kid all the way up until I was 18. So music was my first gift, man. I could probably pick up any instrument and play it. I played at my peak like 8 different instruments. And in New York, I was the number one bass player in New York and things like that. I had a lot of success early, but there's a difference between being good at something and being passionate about something. And I choose the latter, and I went with my passion. And luckily it turned out well for me in the basketball world.
Definitely.
It's so interesting because I actually kind of want to go down that road because, I don't want to say that I have a legitimate passion for music, but I am trying to get a little bit into it. Like my fiance bought me a piano a few months ago for my birthday. Right. I'm trying to get into it, and it's hard, dude. I got fat hands. I don't have pianist fingers. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a little hard, but how fast were you able, genuinely, honestly, from a guy who's trying to pick up music at least a little bit, how fast did you, how fast were you able to pick it up? What different instruments did you play, and did it matter? Were you just able to pick it up and play it?
Oh, no, it matters. I mean, I did have a gift, but I think you're on the right track because the piano is the only instrument that's going to use the left side and the right side of your brain. So the left hand of the piano or playing the drums, then the right hand of the piano would be like playing the guitar or in a saxophone. So how you read the keys and how you read the clefs develops both sides of your brain. So piano is the number one. And once you learn piano, you can pick up all the other instruments because you learn how to read both clefs and use both sides of your brain. You kind of build from there. So I had an old piano, and I would just listen to stuff and try to play it by ear and pick it up. Then probably a year or two down the road, I started taking lessons, and then you start to put things together and it correlates. And I picked up a guitar, same thing, drum set, same thing, bass. And I turned out to be a pretty big guy. And as a kid, I was overweight, so I started playing that big bass because I'm 6'7", and I was kind of heavy dude. So I started playing the big bass, and that was the one that came to me the best because I got big hands and all this stuff. So I put the most focus into that. But still to this day, man, I mess around with the guitar and the drums all day.
That's what's up.
Yeah, I remember when I was really young, I always looked up to drummers. I always thought they were just the coolest members of the band. Everyone always thought it's the guitarists, the lead vocals. Like I always thought that the people, behind playing the drums are always the coolest guys. And I remember when I was growing up and I started to learn how to play myself, it was like one of the biggest early passions of mine. And I remembered that I was completely useless with my left hand because I'm right hand dominated. So I remember oh man, if I learn how to play the drums, I got to kind of develop my left hand, but it's like a dead fish. There's really nothing I can do with it. So me learning how to play the drums kind of developed that skill a little bit. So you saying that you've been able to learn all these instruments and kind of focus both parts of your brain, did that sort of manifest physically to you being able to be ambidextrously skilled and translate on the basketball court as well?
Yeah, 100%, man. I am ambidextrous. And it's funny because when I pick up something new, I have to figure out what hand I am first. So it gets tricky. You know what I mean? Basketball, I play lefty, but I kick righty, I play tennis lefty, I play golf righty, I shoot pool righty. So it's every time I'm picking up something new, I'm trying to figure out which hand I am first. And luckily it carried over into the basketball world. But I think I got to give the credit probably to music first, because you know you have to be apt at both hands. So yeah, it gets tricky though. It's a little. It sounds cool to be ambidextrous, but you know it gets a little annoying because you don't got to go both routes.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, music doesn't work out for you and you decide to pursue basketball, right? So you walk on Suffolk Community College, like, you know, take me through that process, because that's a huge step to take. It's like, you know, you're betting on yourself, you know, nobody really knows you, and now you got to go to work. You know what I'm saying? So kind of like take me through that process of what made you make that decision of going there, and you know, all of that stuff that went.
Well, it was an easy decision because it's the lowest possible you can go, and they can't say no because you're paying your way.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, you can't really go lower than the Division III junior college. Yeah. But it was tough because I left full scholarships on the table for music.
Right.
Wow.
You know, Juilliard, Cal Berkeley, just about any school I want to go to. So it was legitimately $60,000 a year I left on the man. Like, how do I want to pursue the rest of my life? And this is like a real life thing to try to acknowledge at 17. So I was a little overweight and I started getting into working out. 50 Cent had just dropped Give It to Die Trying. He's got his shirt off. He's cut up. You know, I'm like, man, I'm trying to get like that. I've been overweight. Like, so I just got the workout bug first. And I think that kind of developed the work ethic, because, you know, everybody wants to be in shape, and it turns on a bulb. And then I was graduate high school probably about 6'5". I grew a little bit later in college. And then I just said, man, I'm gonna go all in. And I paid my way. They put me on. I didn't play much. I had to grind. You know, New York, you can't play and you out there. It's a mental battle every day, because, you know, people are gonna tell you from New York, it's unfiltered, man. They're gonna tell you exactly how they feel, right or wrong. And they're gonna call you trash every day until you're not trash. And when you get better, you're still going to be trash.
Right.
So, you know, it was tough, but I stuck to it. And early on, I got with a really good trainer. So I had an older cousin. His name's Garnett Thompson. He had ended up playing at Providence. He played a lot of years pro, and he kind of took me under his wing. And he put me on with this trainer named Jerry Powell. And Jerry Powell, basketball results, man, I owe a lot to him, because he trained me for free, man. He brought me in the gym and he's like, listen, you just started, you're not good, you can't play, like, just watch. And he put me in the gym and he just had me watch first. Then the next day I came to work out, he killed me, and then he kicked me out of the gym. Like, yo, this is not for you, man. Like, this is not for you. People here are serious. And I came back the next day, came back the next day, till it turned out, after my first 2 years of junior college, I had some success, not great, and I really didn't have any offers on the table. I had some Division IIs. I had one Division I, very low level, and it kind of fell through because I was a last minute fill-in. So he said, listen, man, if you're serious, he's like, yo, you got to go all in. He's like, I know you got a job and you work. I was working at Enterprise Rental Car, washing the cars on the side, paying my way to go through school. And it's tough because when you're 6'7", you're washing cars, everybody's asking you, like, why you don't play basketball? I do play basketball. I'm just not good. You know what I mean? What are you doing here? So you got to go home with that every day, and that's motivation. And so I ended up taking a year off. And looking back now, I realized this is why I became who I am as far as training and coaching, because I got this from him, and we took a year off and I trained on scholarships or teams, and I figured out, like, hey, you got one opportunity to get it done. You better be prepared, because this is your one and only shot. So I work out for teams, and then luckily I found a good spot at Liberty University, where it was high enough level, Division I, but not so high where I would be able to maximize my last 2 years. And then when I got there, I had some pretty good success.
Yeah, definitely. Real quick, Mike. Alex, how long did it take you to kind of grasp the game itself? Because, you know, playing the game is one thing, but understanding, you know, zone reads, understanding concepts, understanding defensive schemes, hedges, all of this stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how long did it take you to really, because obviously you know you're on the job, you're learning on the job. So was that the toughest thing for you? Because you know the physical part of it is what it is. A lot of people don't realize it's the mental part of the game that's the most challenging. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, it's like an ongoing thing for me. I'm still learning. It's crazy because once I started coaching in the league and when I retired, it's like, man, I feel like I feel like I knew things and I left so much on the table. So I'm constantly evolving.
Yeah.
But I think for me as a player, I probably didn't even hit like my peak pinnacle to where I was actually getting invited to NBA camps and getting looks till I was like 26 years old. Like it took me that long to really, I could work hard and I could produce, but I could only do what I could do. I didn't start to expand until I was about 25, 26, 3 years into being a pro. I had to go to Europe and experience that, Asia experience that, you know, work out for NBA teams, experience that. So yeah, it took me a while for sure.
Definitely.
You know, I think it's really interesting the path that you took, because I think it relates, you know, I have people in my family that I think have gone through pretty similar things. You know, I come from a family with a bunch of really gifted people musically. You know, my uncle, and I don't want to embarrass him or anything like that. But my uncle, when he was a teenager, got accepted into the New England Conservatory of Music.
Oh, wow.
Which is like full blown, he was going to go. I think how the story goes is that he went, and a couple of days in, and this guy could play any instrument. He could play brass. He could play like literally anything. But he goes in a couple of days, realizes that he isn't at the top of the class. He's not the prime guy. He's just a middle of the pack, whatever guy. And he quits because he wasn't the best.
Wow.
Right. That's kind of the way that went down. And again, I really hope I'm not embarrassing him, but maybe I am. You know, did you sort of have a complex like that, whether it came to basketball or whether it came to music later in your life where, all right, maybe like I'm not top dog, but I'm okay with it? Or did you have this thing where you needed to be the peak of the class?
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting, man. I think it's a little bit of both. I think for me with music, it was actually like pretty simple why I stopped, and it's a little elementary. But the real reason it was like, I just didn't like the crowd of people that did music. Like I was trying to get girls and be the man. Like
it wasn't.
I don't know.
It
like,
wasn't cool.
Personally, I'm from it wasn't for me. Like I'm good and I'm as good, and I was fortunate enough to be at the top of my class for music. Now, granted, if I went to Juilliard, I'd have to grind it back out. But I'm just looking like I can't relate to these people. I don't hang out with them. No offense, but like, you know, I'm into girls. I want to get money. Like I want to have some sort of, so not celebrity, but you know, you're a kid, man. You want to be famous. Like,
you don't want to drag around the issue. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying, man. I'm taking taxis with this big bass. Like I'm not getting no girls. I'm chubby. Like it's not the
look
I want to go.
It's not the look, man.
It's just not a look for me. I'm 17. I'm not thinking about, you know, I'm just thinking about the now. Like, how do I get this girl now? You know what I mean? Man. So, and I always love basketball. There's nothing for a kid, and especially from New York, you know, being an NBA player, Michael Jordan, like that's what you look up to. Well, that's what I looked up to, you know, and I had appreciation. And the coolest person I met, rest in peace, was 𝐸𝐺𝐻 because he did both. He played bass and he played in the NBA. And I was fortunate enough to meet him before he passed, God rest his soul. And he kind of bridged it for me, like that you can do both. But at the end of the day, he's known for being an NBA player first. He kind of took the same path, and that kind of helped me along the way. But yeah, man, for basketball, for me, I suck. So I always had a chip on my shoulder. I always felt like I'm the worst. I still do. I train people the same way. And I got from Max guys to whoever. Yeah. You know, so yeah, kind of how your uncle was for music is how I am for basketball.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Listen, Alex, you know, before Matt goes, the worst thing you can be called in New York as a basketball player is decent, right?
Decent. Yeah. He all right. Yeah, he's all right. Like, nah, you know, it's tough.
Man.
Yeah, you never want to beat a pudgy kid with a jump shot,
man. You ain't. Nah, man. Not fun. I didn't even have the jump shot.
Right.
I would have took the jump shot.
Yeah, you know, Alex, one of the things I realized about, because I went to community college as well. It's actually where Mike and I met. It was actually called Suffolk Community College right here in Long Island in New York. And
Yeah.
something that I realized coming out of high school, all my friends were leaving and going away to four-year schools. Everyone was dorming away, traveling, and I was jealous. I was missing out on some sort of experience that they were getting and I wasn't. But the more time I found myself there, the more I kind of found myself thinking, it's what you make it. Junior college is just what you make it. There's no the experience is what you take away from it. So what did you take away from going to a community college, and how much do you really think it helped you in your development, not only in your craft, but just grow as a person?
Well, you went to, which Suffolk did you go to? Which campus?
The Selden campus.
That's why I went Selden.
Okay.
The cool thing,
right.
yeah. So
I got confused for a minute.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Same, the Southern campus, yep.
All right, let's go.
I think I just realized, like, one, there's really no age limit to who's playing. So some guys is 28, some guys are 21. I was young when I went.
Yep.
But it was kind of like, for me, it was like, man, first to prove people wrong. And then you realize, like, in that scope, right, there's always like a level in which somebody's the man. So at that level, these certain people are the man. But in the scope of basketball world, they never pan out. You know what I mean? So it's like, first, you're just trying to catch the guys who are the best in that division in junior college and the best in that region. Then you realize, man, like, if I'm really trying to make it, like, not only do I have to exceed expectations here, I got to get to the next level where guys are trying to go. Because most guys that go to Division A junior college don't play Division I, period. They barely get to. So just getting to Division I is a stepping stone. So for some guys, that's their end game.
Right.
If you're really trying to make it, you got to get there. And then you have to match the level of production or more, or exceed expectations, and now enter a new realm and become the man there. So it's kind of like constant progression as you move up. And as you go, people start to drop off. So as I was going, I started to realize, hey, man, like, what happened to this dude? He got caught up in this, and people start dropping off. You realize it humbles you to, if I don't stay focused, man, I'm gonna end up like this. And it's not a knock to anybody, but it's like, do I want to wash cars at Enterprise, or do I, you know what I mean? Or am I trying to really do this? And you only have a short span to play basketball. Most people are done before college. So the statistics are crazy. It's like you're less than 1% to go to Division I. You're like an 1/8% to play professional. And you're like 1/32% to go to the NBA, because there's only 420 jobs. So for you to really try to make it, you have to defy the odds almost every single day. And to defy the odds every single day, you got to do what everybody else isn't doing, which is like kind of a conundrum in your mind. So you got to be willing to really, like, if guys are doing this, or say guys working out once a day, you might have to work out. Honestly, if you're going to be 0.5% of the world, you would have to do like 10 times what he's doing per day just to make it. So it's kind of like what you got to tell your mind. And so I kind of had, like, I had things to where I would be up, like, feeling like I was behind. I was already behind because I didn't play high school. So I was always playing catch up, man. I tore both my Achilles because I would overwork myself trying to make it. Yep. Came back from both of them.
It's so crazy because you just brought up like 1/3, like a 32nd of a percent goes to the NBA. There's only 420 jobs. And not only that, but you got to stick in the NBA. You got to stick. Right. Yeah, like you can go to the NBA and then make it for 10 days and then you're gone.
You're gone. There's 30 jobs that open up per year.
Right.
Because guys are on contract are trying to stay. It is unreal. Like, you go play Powerball.
Right.
You want to be an NBA player.
You got better,
starting to play Powerball. You got better odds. You got better odds.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Stand on the top of a hill and get struck by lightning.
Yeah. It's that, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. So
people don't think that everybody can't make it.
Right. So, you get to Liberty, Alex, and you still hold the record for the 40-20 game. Like, I don't think that anybody is gonna break that. I really don't. We'll at that point, when you are putting up these numbers, leading your team in scoring and rebounds, did you actually believe that you had a chance to get drafted? Like, were you getting any hints that you were on anybody's radar, that you were a prospect, that you can possibly maybe be a late round pick or a second round pick or something like that, or a camp invite? Were there some talks, or was it just nothing? Was it just like, okay, cool, I gotta treat it like me walking on in Suffolk, I gotta just grind again at the next level?
Oh man, it was tough. So the 40-20 game was good, but I was also against the team in our conference, a guy named Reggie Williams, who ended up getting drafted in the second round,
Yeah.
and he was leading the country in scoring, averaging
Right.
28.
Right.
So I had 40 and 20, but luckily I had that game against that guy because the scouts were there looking for him. So he's averaging 28 a game for 3 seasons, and he's sniffing the second round to get in. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
So I had to put that in perspective. Like, yeah, I'm doing well. This is a mid-major. Like, I'm doing well. I'm getting looks, but like, I have to keep it in perspective, man. I'm gonna have to grind. It's gonna be scratch. That's what I say every day. Like, it's scratch. Like every day. And you start to figure something. I knew I'd play overseas, but the NBA stuff, I got a few. Like, I had a few pre-draft workouts when I came out. I had like 6. But it was tough, man. I'm 6'7". Back then, I was a legitimate big man. So I had to readjust my whole skill set. And coming out in that '08 draft, you know, you coming out Blake Griffin and all these big guys, Mike Beasley. So the guys my size are playing like guards or they're jumping out of the gym.
Right.
So, you know, I had to keep it in perspective for sure.
Definitely.
You know, you had a guy that was playing against you that was averaging 28 points a game for 3 straight years. And he was sniffing the second round. He might have not even have been able to get drafted. And, you know, you're playing against that guy and now you're coaching, right? Like now you're within an organization and you understand how everything works and you've got the experience and all of that stuff, right? It always it's always really funny to me because I'm going to take somebody like Zach LaVine, right? Zach LaVine was like 7th or 8th man at UCLA and he was a lottery pick. Right. Because people just saw him jump out of the gym. They said, you know what? The potential's there. And granted, he became a pretty good NBA player. But I find it funny how guys that average 8 and 4 in college get drafted higher than the guys that average 30 and 6. Like, it's just, it blows my mind. Is there some sort of thought process that goes behind that?
100%. Because Zach LaVine can do something that maybe 1 out of 10 guys can jump as high as him in the NBA.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody in the NBA can score. Everybody was the man for when they came from. And when you go to the league, the man is already there. Dame Lillard's here. Steph is here. Bradley Beal's here. Russell. So you better, if you average 8 and 4, you probably have a 7'4" wingspan. You probably jump out the gym and you can fill a role. Because when coming into the league, you know who the stars are going to be. And they're usually the number 1, the number 2, or the number 3 pick. You know, and of course there's other people that sneak in and have great success. I'm not saying that, but the pecking order, these guys are getting groomed from 8th and 9th grade. You kind of know who's going to make it as long as they stay on track. So it's kind of like you're just finding the pieces. And I know it's weird, but like you go to Kentucky, everybody at Kentucky is a first round pick for a reason.
Right.
Everybody can't average 28 over there. We're talking the Atlantic Sun Conference. If you're good, you should average that. Over there, it's about filling a role and filling a need for a team. So some guys differentiate themselves by what they have physically, their physical tools. That's what everybody should be able to work on, but it's your physical tools because that's what God give you, and that's what's going to separate you from everybody else.
You know, before you go, Matt, you know, because I see guys in college and the guys that are really highly productive in college and, you know, like they do get drafted, right? And I'd imagine that part of it is physical tools also, but the guys like Marcus Page and, you know, JP Tokido and Ryan Arcidiacono and guys like the guys that are, you know, they're not crazy. They're not Zion Williamson, but they're the crazy productive college guy, right? If you remember, Northwestern had a quarterback a couple of years ago named Colin Klein, right? And he was a Heisman favorite. And people were saying, listen, we know you throw for, you know, 4,800 yards, but we really want you to work out at tight end. You know, it's just, I find that whole thing to be incredibly interesting.
It's crazy, man. It really is crazy, but it's needs, man. It's just needs for a team. And it's funny because the guys who usually lead the league in scoring have the hardest time staying in the league, you know, unless you're 6'9", 6'10", and you're leading the nation in scoring and you can do things. It's totally different, man, because, you know, it's all about potential. And the most well-groomed college players are usually the oldest, man, and you don't get drafted as high if you're 21 and 20.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, so, you know, Alex, I want to talk a little bit about your professional journey because it took you all over the world. You played in countries like Poland, China, the Philippines, you know, Qatar, Egypt, Greece. So now that you're coaching and you played in junior college, you went to free agent camps for different NBA teams. What can you tell us a little bit about the differentiating features between basketball culture in those countries as when compared to the United States?
Oh man, it's not close. Europe by far thinks that they know it all about basketball. The European League is great and it grooms you. And EuroLeague is the second best league in the world to the NBA. I think now Australia, the NBL in Australia, is very close because that's actually an incredible league too. But Europe is totally different, man. It's about efficiency. It's not about scoring. Like when I was in EuroLeague and I made the All-Star game, I averaged 8 and 10 and 8, and I didn't even start. So if they want efficiency, playing a role, feature the European guys, do your job. Now China is the complete opposite. China, you're not scoring 30 and 40 a night, you're gonna lose your job tomorrow. They're gonna pay you and you're gonna have a ton of fans, but you better get numbers. And if one guy, because China's a lot of influx of ex-NBA guys that come in, big names, because China can pay the money. But you got to produce. Like the 5-man on my team was Hassan Whiteside. 3 years later, he signed a $100 million deal with the Heat. So it's not a cupcake league, but it's two totally different perspectives. Like one is role, team oriented, feature our guys. The other one is like, man, numbers, put up the numbers, just play selfish. So it's kind of like, I was fortunate to see both worlds, and then the NBA is like a mesh of it all, like the cream of the crop, man. Like being a perfectionist in your role for whatever you do, and it's like you got to be close to perfect every day in the league. The league is these leagues couldn't touch the NBA just on what it really takes on a day-to-day basis to stay. Getting to the NBA is hard, but staying is even harder. And what guys do on a day-to-day basis is underrated. We're so quick to judge and say, oh, this guy stinks. You don't know what there is no days off, man. I haven't had a day off in a year.
Right.
Wow. So, people complain, they say they overpaid, but listen, these guys, it's an everyday thing, 24 hours a day, nonstop.
Yeah.
It really is.
Definitely. So you ended up, you had some injuries overseas, and you're at this crossroads, right? You're thinking about, extending your playing career, but then there's this other opportunity that may be there. Like, talk to me about that. Like, you had this big offer, and it was the biggest offer that, you've ever had overseas. And then, you decide not to go that direction. Like, talk me through that process.
Yeah. So coming out of Liberty, when we're talking about that pre-draft process, my first trip with my assistant coach, Brad Susi, who's been helping me, throughout my whole life, was with the Wizards. And I met Tommy Shepard, who then was the assistant GM, who is my GM now.
Right.
And me and him have a great relationship. So that's in 2008. So now, coming back, I had tore my Achilles. I came back, rehabbed it, played. I had tore my right Achilles, my second one. And I'm rehabbing. I got a call from Brad Susi, who was my Liberty coach. They all went to UVA. They all came. My little brother's playing there at the time. He's going into his freshman year.
Nice.
And who was in on a Wizards training camp with us this past year, by the way.
Okay,
so he's killed everything at Liberty. But Brad calls me, hey, come down. You could rehab with us. We want to get you in the gym with our guys, just kind of, get a buzz, see if you can help them out while you're trying to get back. So I went down there and I'm rehabbing. He's like, hey, listen, you might as well stay here, get your master's while you're rehabbing. You could be a graduate assistant with us. Obviously, it's not going to pay much, And I stayed down there. I brought my family down there. And, man, I started to get the bug. I'm starting working with the younger guys. And I'm like, man, this is fun, man. I'm watching guys develop. Like, I'm playing with them. And my agent calls me, he's like, hey, because I played 1 year, and the next year I signed my most lucrative deals financially overseas. I signed the biggest contract I ever signed. Right. So coming off of that, I'm starting to have a little bit more momentum, and I had a really big offer on the table, big numbers. And I said, man, I'm looking like, I just felt, God calling me in another direction. Like, and it's crazy. It's the same as music. It was like that same crossover with music and going to play basketball.
Right.
And I thought playing professional basketball was my end goal, and it's crazy. It was just like a stepping stone to the next chapter of my life. So now I'm crossroads of, $1,000 a month being a GM would have like asked or not. But I said, I'm a gambler, man. So I bet on myself, and I did it. And I stayed there for a year, and I rehabbed, and I was still getting calls. And man, right at the end of that Liberty season, Tommy Shepard calls Richie McKay, the head coach. Hey, you got a guy. remember Alex McLean? Yeah, I remember Alex. Man, he's ready. Boom, the rest was history after that, man.
Wow.
They called me. I was just having my second daughter. Like, my daughter was born. I hopped in the car and I drove 3 hours to DC to be there for 8 o'clock workout. Start working with guys long before I signed. I'm driving back and forth. Then I'm talking with at the head of player development at the time, David Atkins. He's still here now, actually. He goes, hey, we're getting ready to go to LA for like a team minicamp. I had no plans of going to LA. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be in LA too. I go to LA, my own dime. Now I'm driving an hour every morning, meet them for camp. So I'm doing all this. This is all for free, man. I'm just trying to be around it.
Wow.
Man, Tommy calls me, hey, listen, we got this job for you. Nothing. My first year in the NBA, I didn't make anything. And man, sure enough, man, you just stay to the grind. The rest is history. Like, luckily for me, I have a good trajectory, you know, and I've been very, very blessed for how my coaching career has gone so far. It's still the beginning, but like, I wouldn't trade that decision for the world. All the money I left for that contract,
Right.
man, it doesn't even compare to what's going on now. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? The opportunity for the next 30 years of my life rather than, you know, 2 years, not even
Right.
close.
Right. You made the right decision, man.
Yeah.
So I think I love when we interview coaches because, you know, my dad was a coach. My dad's dad was a coach. I'm starting to coach now. Baseball's my sport. So I've been coaching baseball for a little bit.
Nice.
And I wasn't a great baseball player. I played varsity in high school and everything like that, but I didn't play in college. I didn't do whatever. My fastball maxed out at like 82. Like I wasn't going pro, but
That's still crazy. That's still crazy.
Right.
But, you know, I find it so funny because the more and more I coach, the more I feel like I like it more than playing. Like I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love coaching, having an impact on young people, you know, trying to control games, trying to get players to be better. Right. I love that whole process. Can you relate? How do you feel coaching?
No, I love
playing?
it. I love it. I never thought it would be. I think the first year is the hardest transition. And now I only work out to maintain credibility for when I'm demonstrating something. Or like in times like this year when we had 7 guys out with COVID,
right?
Coach Brooks like, hey, you got to practice with us for a week.
I
can compete, but it's a camaraderie thing. It's not an ego thing. Yeah. But it's an ego thing. It's not for like, because I'm trying to like make the team. It's just to like get in there, get in the mix, have fun with guys. And it's another element of bonding. So like this summer, like, you know, the last year I spent with John Wall doing his rehab. And there'd be times where we'd have a pro run. We have great pros and we have 9 guys. And I would be the 10th. I'm not playing. Like, let's go get somebody else. Like, because you have to draw that line to where it's like, what am I doing, man? I don't want to get the ties crossed. Like, I'm here. I'm doing a job. I'm here. My job is to get you better. Once you stop playing, it's not about you anymore. And it's about the other person. And you can only be successful until you're able to put that to the side. Now, you got to have your shit because you got to maintain credibility.
Of course.
You know what I mean? But that's the only reason why I work out. I don't work out to play. I don't work out to try to think that I'm better. Because if I'm training you, I think that you're the best. Or I believe that you're going to be the best.
Right.
So it's times like, you know, like even yesterday, like I just put out there, but I'm training Paige and 𝐦𝐨𝐧𝐭 to go on the UConn.
Nice.
And man, like we're trying to finish a drill. And I'm looking at the clock, like I got to get to shoot around. But like my instinct is like, I'm not leaving till we finish this drill, you know what I mean?
That's
and they're looking at me like, no. And it's just, that's what it is, man. Whoever I'm with, like if I'm with you, I know that. Like if I'm with you, I'm with you. If we're working out, we're working out together. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's kind of what it is. It's not, you know, the ego goes aside. And it's like, I love to sit back and like watching one of the guys that I train have a great game is far exceeds any great game that I've ever had. The 40-20 game or anything I've ever done in my career far exceeds that. You know what I mean? And that's just that's where the transition happens.
There's no greater thrill that I've felt on a baseball field than when the little kid that I was working on swing mechanics with gets a single up the middle. Like it's the best feeling in the whole world.
Yeah. You wouldn't believe it until you experience it.
Yes.
Right. It's crazy. It's crazy. And if you guys watch a Wizards game, you'll see in the background, you'll see me stand. I go crazy. I look like one of the guys.
I know.
My guy catches a dunk or does something. I'm in the back screaming, hey, because
Yeah.
I love it, man. That
Right.
New York comes out. I feel like I'm at Dykeman or Rucker or whatever.
Yeah.
So that New York comes right out. But
that
man,
enthusiasm,
because I'm fully
man.
invested, you know?
Right. You have that
Yeah.
enthusiasm for life,
Yeah.
man, and for coaching. That's big respect, man. Big respect.
Yeah, I feel like even in recent we've seen kind of the relationship between coaching and players in different sports. Like sometimes the importance of it sort of gets diminished to a certain degree. Like we've been seeing that like managers in baseball kind of their roles are becoming smaller and smaller as time has progressed. We're seeing the role of coaching in football. That role has progressively become more important. You know, we're seeing more and more offensively innovative minds being hired to sort of become the blueprint. And the same thing in basketball. We've seen the impact of great coaches on players that and players that create dynasties. You know, Phil Jackson, Pat Riley, Steve Kerr, like guys like that really play, you know, imperative, crucial roles in the success of their own team. So where would you describe how the relationship between coaching and basketball ranks in importance in all of like the four major sports?
Well, you know, I think the main word, what you just said, is relationship, because you can only be a good coach depending on how good your relationship is with players. We said it before, these guys are the very, very, very select few. I had a very good pro career and I made money. I couldn't touch these guys on my best day. So on paper, if I just met you the first time, I really can't tell you shit. You know what I mean? Because you're already the best of the best. Right. So it's more of, you have to build the trust. You have to build a relationship first. You have to have credibility with what you do, and you got to know your stuff. But once you build a relationship, you'll get whatever you want out of any. You know what I mean? But they got to trust you, and then they got to know you're for real. Because professional athletes are the big every day of their life has a sales pitch for them, a speech, an angle. They could pick that out like a dime a dozen. So sometimes like less is more in the beginning is coaching. You got to feel how, you got to know how somebody ticks, how their mind works, little things to be able to have an impact. Because if you can't do that, you'll never get where you're trying to go with them. So the number one thing, what you said, is just the relationship. Simple.
Definitely. So, Alex, coach, we know that Russell Westbrook is, to me, arguably the most talented athlete at the point guard position I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen anybody with his type of skill set that plays that position. Coaching him, working with him, is he the Superman that we all think he is? Like the fact that, you know, he has this unlimited motor. I've never seen anything like it. Like, you know, can you kind of, you know, like, talk about that a little bit?
To be honest, he's coaching us a lot of the time. Dude's IQ's off the charts. People say unlimited motor. No, he's really like that. He's on 1,000 all day long. And it's to his credit because he's the same every day. And it was tough because I was in a pickle, man, because John is my dude. Right. John is my guy. Like, I've been with him for a long time. We've been through the trenches. We did this whole rehab, and the trade happens, and I'm caught in the middle. You know, and I had a decision to make. I could have gone one way or another. And getting to know Russ and unbiasedly is unbelievable. That dude is unbelievable, man. And everything they say about him is 100% true. 100. He is the same. He's up early. You know, we have pictures today. He's up early. He's in the gym shooting care of his body. He does all little things. And I don't know when he sleeps or where he gets energy from, or if he's on like 1,000 Red Bulls a day, but he's like that every day. And his IQ is incredible, and he brings guys with him, man. He's special. I haven't really been around somebody like that. Like, he's special.
So I know that Russell Westbrook gets a lot of flack, right? Because, you know, you hear all these big radio heads and, you know, these television commentators and all those guys like that say, listen, Westbrook, he's inefficient. He's tough to play with. He's kind of sporadic. He doesn't shoot the three ball well. Like, they give him all of this stuff. What are the things that people aren't seeing on Russell Westbrook?
And the hours that he puts into his body alone, what he does to make sure his body's prepared, his mind's prepared. Like, when you first meet Russ, it's hard to talk to him on a game day because he's locked in. And he might tell you, some unkindly words if you approach him the wrong way in a game. That he's locked in fully, locked in. He's not playing any games. He'll be the same with you as he'll be with anybody else. He's ultra competitive, you know, and he's the type, regardless of what you say about him and what he does and the negative things, you know, his numbers are incredible. And when the game is on the line, man, like he shows up. He shows up in clutch moments. And that's an attribute of itself. He mentally he can get to another level. And every day it's an everyday thing, man. He's got like what Kobe had, like he's got that. We were kind of talking about that today. Like that obsessed. He's obsessed. Yeah, he's obsessed. He's obsessed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things about Russell Westbrook that a lot of people, you know, get so hung up on is the triple double and how much it actually means and translates into the success of the team that he's been on. I mean, this is going to be the second or third year in a row that he's going to be averaging a triple double, and this could be statistically the best season that he's had right now, where he's actually averaging that much. So what is your personal opinion on that particular stat in itself? Because there's varying opinions across the league about what a triple-double can actually provide. To me, it shows that you're a versatile player that contributes on all ends of the floor. So I don't know how it can be interpreted any differently. Like, is that so far off base, or is that pretty much the consensus?
I mean, I think it's like half and half. Unfortunately, he's done it on such a regular basis that it gets diminished. And I think early in his career, before I met him, I may have been guilty of that myself. And it's like, when you really look at it, like, bro, that's incredible. You know how locked in you got to be to fill that up? And you can't be selfish and average a triple double. Like it's a paradox kind of. It's you know, it's like I don't know the word, you know, a contradiction.
Yes.
There it is. It's like the dude is playing for everybody else. Sometimes it's not pretty because he goes hard. That's part of his game. His game is predicated on effort. But just being able to fill those stats, you know, a double-double's tough. And, you know, certain guys get triple-doubles and they may look prettier and they get more praise, but this dude's doing it on a consistent basis on a young team, a team with a lot of young guys. You know, I got to tip my cap to him. And I think just because he's done it so regularly, the work actually gets diminished. But the level of difficulty to do that, you know, man, guys can't do that. If they could, they would.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, you know, I'm sure the expectations, coach, to start the season, you know, it's always a clean slate, but I'm sure in the organization, they had their own thought process in regards to where they think the season would go or what the expectation level is. And you guys had a rough start. You guys had a rough start to the season. A lot of guys were hurt. A lot of guys got COVID. You know, it was pretty much like a scrap heap situation. And now you guys are 9-10 in your last, you know, 9-1 in your last 10 games. You're starting to play well. You're starting to really come together. And that play-in tournament game is really, really an option at this point. Like, what is the mindset of the team? Is everybody locked in? You know, has the camaraderie and the chemistry gotten better? Is it the best it's been all season? And is this why you guys are having such success right now?
Yeah, I think the camaraderie is much better, but believe it or not, like this team is actually, and I've been a part of a lot of people on a lot of teams. The issue has never been like an internal thing. Everybody generally gets along, like, and everybody's good guys. It was just a function of, you know, we had 7 guys out with COVID. We got off to a rough start, but it's everybody trying to get accustomed. Russ is a big piece of that because you got to figure him out, and he's a lot. He is a lot, and if you're a young kid and you're a kid like, you know, Danny or Louis, and you're not an American and you're already learning the language, and Russ is like the alpha. It's hard. I think it was hard to get that adjustment. I think we got hit hard with COVID, but I think we're putting a good stretch in at the end. I think that's what matters. But every game now feels like a playoff game. Man.
Yeah.
It's probably more anxiety than it should be, but we were trying to sneak in, man. We had a rough start.
Absolutely.
I really like a lot of the young guys that you have on that roster, right? Like Deni Avdija and Rui Hachimura and guys like these are good NBA players, you know, and when Deni Avdija got drafted and I was like, dude, the guy fell all the way to 9. The guy does the guy pretty much does everything, right? Yeah. It's just it's so fascinating to me. Like, what is the plan specifically for Deni Avdija? Because he's just a player that fascinates me, right? Like, What is the plan for him? What is his role, do you believe, in your coaching opinion? What is his role going forward in Washington?
I don't know, man. It's tough. Right now, you have Bradley Beal, who leads the league in scoring, the best scorer in the NBA. You got Russell, who's an alpha, triple-double machine. It's kind of like right now, Rui's kind of been our third option offensively, and he's been much better defensively. Then he's kind of got to master his role. And this is going to help him develop way more as a player later in his career. Like, you know, Russ is in his 30s and everybody, but being 19 years old and 20 years old now, him learning how to master the role, playing around these guys, and one guy who is going to be a Hall of Famer will help him develop to when a team eventually gives him the keys, or he's a first or second or third option, because he has time to grow. And on our team, he has a major role, but as he grows and as he develops, him being able to master a role now with these guys will help him for when it's his time, you know, because he's got a lot of potential. Clearly, he's not there yet, but he'll work towards it. And when he's ready, he'll be ready to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have one more Russell Westbrook question. I promise. Last one.
No, you're good.
He's 5 triple doubles away from breaking Oscar Robertson's record, most all time.
Yeah.
In your opinion, coaching, personal, whichever one, by the end of his career, all time, does Russell Westbrook finish as a top 10 point guard of all time?
I mean, in my book, he has to. You know, a lot of people predicate things on rings, and I get it. And there's a lot of people at rings that, you know, haven't done nearly the things he's done. But, you know, in my opinion, yes, he's top 10 point guards in my opinion, 100%.
Definitely.
I mean, listen, I put John Stockton as the best point guard of all time. Doesn't have any rings.
Yeah.
John Stockton's up there. You got Magic. You got CP3.
Yeah, I was about to say John Stockton over Magic.
Yeah, come on, man. You crazy. You're crazy.
All-time leader in
Magic's
steals and
my number
assists. Like, all-time leader in steals and assists.
Magic's my number one right now.
Doesn't do anything for you guys? No?
That's all right. That's fine. But
yeah, it's okay.
Steph Curry.
He only
Curry's entering
obliterates
the conversation too.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
All right.
Steph's a hybrid. Steph is a hybrid.
Yeah, exactly. I see him more of a combo. Like, you know what I mean? He's not a pure point guard, but he's just a different breed, man. He's just a different breed. Coach, I wanted to talk to you about being an African American coach, because you know, this is something in the NBA that, you know, is talked about a lot. Like, you know, guys are assistant coaches and they end up, you know, they're successful in their role. They work with so many players. They're well respected around the league. You know, they coach for 20 plus years and they never get an opportunity. Is that something that is in the back of your head as a coach, or is it just like, you know, I'm just gonna go with the flow, wherever it takes me, it takes me. And, you know, if I end up being a head coach somewhere, that's fine, but I'm just happy doing what I'm doing? Or, you know, do you think about that as like, okay, I'm an assistant, I want to be a head coach, but man, you know, how it looks right now in regards to the landscape, the image, how things look, is that it's not that attainable, because there's not so many African American head coaches in the NBA.
Right. But and I agree with what you're saying. And it is a valid thought. And people do think about it. That's the reality. Things are changing and they are becoming more. And I don't know. I'm not a big race card player, because I believe if you do good work, you'll get what's coming. Now, people are dealt a bad hand. I understand that. And things are always, but man, for me, I can only speak for me personally. If you're a person that's been overcoming odds your whole life, I'm not worried about that. You know, if that's my goal and that's what I want to do, I'm going to attain it. And I just think that, like, Pop, you look at Pop and guys like that, it's just, when you're a good coach, you're just long tenured as well. You know, Pop's going to be around till he wants to be around. And Rick Carlisle and those guys, Steve Kerr. So it's kind of like, we talk about the revolving door for players. It's even shorter for head coaches. One, you have more pressure. And two, if you do good work, you're going to have a job for however long. You could play for 10, 15 years. You could coach for 30, you're a good coach, you might get 20 years. So it's hard. There's really only 30 jobs at all.
Yeah.
So I think being 30 jobs and how competitive it is, that plays a factor. But I think as time goes, and I think the NBA is probably the most, as far as when it comes to diversification, I think that they lead the pack, with everything that they're doing. I think that, things will change, but I don't know. It's tough for me because I never play that card, man. But,
yeah.
There is this. There's advantages and disadvantages, but I think things are changing for sure.
No, that's facts. Respect.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
So we ask everybody this question, every single person that we interview, we ask.
I am curious to know what coach is going to say.
Alex McLean, who is the greatest athlete of all time in any sport?
Athlete. Whoa. The greatest athlete of all time. I thought for sure you were going to say greatest basketball player of all time.
No.
Whoa.
An athlete can mean whatever you want.
Right.
It's your definition of what the word athlete means. So wide open.
I mean, for me, part of mine is can't be the best at what you do. Bo Jackson's got to be in there for me, because he excelled at. Deion Sanders got to be in there.
Right.
Then you look at the track and field athletes. That's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The best athlete. I think I'm gonna go Bo Jackson, man.
Nice.
Because he was just a beast at two sports.
Solid answer.
And that's tough.
Yeah.
And that's tough. I think that, Michael Jordan's right there. I think if he played in the MLB like Bo Jackson, it'd be a no-brainer.
Right.
He's close. Yeah.
Nah, that's
I think I'll go with Bo Jackson, man.
I like that answer.
Because Bo Jackson could have been a track and field sprinter.
Right.
He could have been, yeah. I'm gonna go with Bo.
Yeah, he was a freak athlete. Man.
I feel like I'm missing somebody.
That's our first Bo though, right? Right, Mike?
Is that our first Bo?
Yeah, that's our first Bo Jackson.
Who else did you guys get? Who else did some people say?
So we've gotten two
A lot
Tom
of
Brady's.
ones.
Yeah, we've gotten a bunch. 2 Tom Brady's, 2 Serena Williams. We got a Usain Bolt. We got Cristiano Ronaldo. I think we have two Michael Jordans.
Right.
A Floyd Mayweather. We have an Edwin Moses. We have a Peyton Manning. A Randy Moss.
Floyd. We have Floyd stuff, yeah.
We have a Muhammad Ali. We have Diego Maradona. And we had one guy that picked Secretariat, the horse.
Wow. I actually got to say, I'll actually wager to put in LeBron James. I think he could have been a crazy tight end.
Yo, listen, we're still waiting.
We're still waiting on LeBron.
Still waiting on LeBron.
Yeah. I'm close to LeBron because for me, when you say athlete, I think about just being an athlete, not being the best at your sport.
Exactly.
Right.
That's tough. That is tough. Yeah.
Now,
I'm gonna go with Bo.
And your reaction to the question was about on par with the reaction that everybody has.
Yeah. That's tough. That's a tough question because you don't want to miss anybody,
Right.
Yeah.
Nah, I like that one. We finally got a Bo Jackson. We're waiting for Braun. There's a couple other people I'm waiting for. So I like the fact that you came with the Bo Jackson, man. Much respect for that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Bo.
All right, Coach. Well, listen, this was great, man. Thank you for coming on the show. It was an honor, it's a pleasure to have you on. We're definitely gonna be, watching the Wizards as they continue to ascend, up the ranks in the Eastern Conference. They're playing well right now. Kudos to you. Kudos to, you guys that are developing these players. You're working really hard, and it's showing. The work that you guys are putting in is really, really showing. So, you definitely deserve a lot of respect and credit for that.
For sure, man. I appreciate that. And thank you guys for having me, man. This was a blast. You guys are great. And anything you need from me moving forward, anything I can do for you guys, feel free to let me know. I love to build relationships and make connections. And
definitely. We definitely appreciate it, Coach. Definitely appreciate it.
Sure.
Man. So